Hello, my name is Bill Reeks, and I lead a company called the Gramercy Institute. And we are a think tank for senior marketers from major financial firms. And in part of the deliverance of our mission, we produce a series called Financial Marketer TV. Now, naturally, it's not TV; it is a webinar, and each of them focus on interviewing a senior marketer at a major financial firm, and I have the pleasure of doing that. Now, today, I am very pleased to tell all of you that we have Tara Giuliano. She's the Chief Marketing Officer of Nuveen, and Nuveen is a TIAA company. And she and I have had the pleasure of a little pre-call as well. And I know that we're all in store for some interesting insights and also perhaps some fun too. We're going to take this out to about 3:40 or so. And I do encourage viewers to don't hesitate to chime in with questions. We use the Q&A box. Is that correct? Yeah, we're going to use the Q&A box to ask any questions, so don't be bashful about that. I certainly have a whole slate of questions for our interview subject, Tara, but it's always fun to take questions from the crowd. So that said, I think it is my pleasure to introduce to you today's subject, who is Tara Giuliano, Chief Marketing Officer at Nuveen, a TIAA company. And first, I'll say welcome, Tara, and then I'll open up with a question about tell us a little bit about your background. So, Tara, over to you.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. As mentioned, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer here at Nuveen. I've spent my entire career in financial marketing roles spanning companies like Nationwide, Morningstar, Allianz, and UBS. So as I say, it's all I've ever done. It's all I ever want to do. And I'm pleased to be here today.
Well, that's wonderful. And if I'm not mistaken, I think you and I, 12, 13, 14 years or so, maybe, I remember some of the posts that you were at. And it's great to see your success as you move forward.
Thank you very much.
Of course. So let's talk a little bit. Let's go right to where you are today. Let's talk about Nuveen, right? Tell us about what you do. What's your job like at Nuveen? You're the Chief Marketing Officer, but tell us more.
Sure. So Nuveen is a $1 trillion global asset manager. We have clients in 32 countries around the world, and we offer both private and public investment strategies in many different forms and fashion. And we also have a retirement business. We are owned by TIAA, which has been around for over 100 years and has, exceptional product in the retirement space as well. So it is a very happy marriage working together with our parent. My role is really threefold. I lead the brand for Nuveen in partnership with our Chief Brand Officer at our parent. We get measured on an annual basis around very specific brand goals that we set out for Nuveen. Secondly, we are measured around our ability as a marketing organization to help acquire, develop, and cross-sell clients around the world, both U.S. financial advisors as well as global institutional investors and consultants, and of course, the retirement decision makers. And then lastly, I also help lead the client experience initiative at Nuveen, which means that I am working to do research on our clients to understand their satisfaction, loyalty, and likelihood to recommend drivers and rankings, and then bringing together a multitude of cross-functional leaders across Nuveen to figure out how to improve the client experience and continue to keep our clients happy.
Yes, that is a full plate, I would say. That's great, though. That's great, and thank you for explaining that. I have two immediate questions, if I may, because you referenced it about your relationship, brother sisterhood, whatever we'd like to call it, with TIAA. Could you explain that a little deeper? Are they treated as separate? Are they? Maybe could you explain that to me and to us?
Sure. So our marketing organizations is one marketing organization. So I report to our chief communications and marketing officer of the enterprise. I have teams underneath me inside my organization that focus on client marketing, product marketing, Nuveen retirement marketing, TIAA has a wealth business and a retirement business with CMOs that lead those. And then we have shared teams of experts across many different functions. So if you think of things, for example, like design and our guidance that we get on brand and analytics and, kind of go on down the list. I also have public relations and content for Nuveen in my org, but we have this amazing benefit of having these shared experts that sit across the marketing teams as well.
That's
I'm a
great.
member of the Nuveen executive leadership team, though, so very much have a seat at the table amongst those leaders as well.
That's great. And thank you, Tara. You've explained that well. Let me ask you about this. You just mentioned that you're responsible for the brand, right? And much of the work of a brand marketer is to differentiate and help explain what makes a brand different. Could you explain a little bit? You're in a crowded field, you know that. What makes Nuveen different, and how do you capitalize on that difference?
Sure. Well, it's a very apropos question because we've been in the midst of a brand project for some time now. So we conducted research with 800 clients and prospects around the world with a focus in our 4 key markets, which is the US, the UK, Japan, and Germany. We also conducted interviews with hundreds of internal stakeholders to really kick the tires on the brand storytelling that we have been doing and to understand how we want to take that brand forward. We just celebrated our 125-year birthday as Nuveen, and we want to be relevant for the next 125 years. And certainly what we've found is the ability that Nuveen has had to help generation after generation of investors be successful, and what we've been able to do to look around corners to continue to innovate and continue to be relevant did very much resonate with our clients and our employees. And so we have embarked on completing that research and the ideas that came off the back of it. We embarked on a agency of record search and a new media agency search, which both completed last week. And so I think you will all be very excited to see later this year what we start to co-create between our chief brand office here at TIAA Nuveen, with the Nuveen marketing team, with our new creative agency, and with our media partners, as we're going to really bring our new story to life starting later this year. So.
Oh, that is exciting, and congratulations on bringing your company to this point. We're really looking forward to hearing more about that as you're able to unpack it for us in the months ahead. But that's big news, and thanks for sharing that bit with us. My next question is a little bit personal. I want to ask you what you like most about working for Nuveen, and I'll say, and what it does for its customers, and maybe even by extension, what it does for society. So what makes, what do you like most about Nuveen? That's my question.
Well, I do think Nuveen is a unique culture in the asset management space, and having worked at a few, it is, I always say it blends the best of everywhere else I've worked in terms of the cultures. It's extremely client-centric in the way that we think and make decisions. And we want to win because we want to win for our clients, but we also have this amazing collaborative nature. It makes it just a wonderful place to work where people really appreciate one another and want to work together to solve problems and to grow the business. But we have these roots, as I keep mentioning, our 125-year history. TIAA has this 100-year history. We've been doing responsible investing for 50 years. And John Nuveen, who founded Nuveen, we call him the Prairie Bondsman. He knocked on doors to create bonds to build the infrastructure of America. Right. So we have this just incredible storytelling at our fingertips. And I think what makes my job so fun is that richness that I can just continue to use as the world around us change and shifts, because the things that have happened in the last 125 years, if you think about, geopolitics, if you think about demographic shifts, I mean, we could go on and on and on, and it's not going to be dissimilar from the decades to come, but it will happen. Change will happen at an even more rapid pace. And so what's really fun at Nuveen is I get to put my chief future officer hat on often through the lens of our clients to think about some of these really big seismic shifts around, people living longer and the retirement crisis in this country, to the future of advice, which I think is going to look very different than the traditional models today. The demographic shifts that are happening all around us, what politically will come, what market cycles we're going to be going through. I have stayed in this industry as long as I have, because it's intellectually stimulating. Just when you think you understand all the vehicles, investment vehicles, there's a new vehicle invented or becomes, the favorite. And I think customization right now, as we're seeing, is going to become a really important track as well. So I'm not going to get bored anytime soon.
That is such a great answer, and thank you. And it dovetails really well with my next question because, like, financial marketers today have so much on their plates
Yes.
at all times, right? And P.S., it could all change at any given time because of just what you said about, the fluctuating nature of markets and how that could change your plans moving forward, et cetera. And it's hard to rely on, well, we're just going to do this. That's not how it works in financial. My question to you is, clearly you have a very powerful strategic mind. How do you keep it all on strategy? That's my question. So many moving parts. How do you keep it on strategy?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a really rigorous planning process here, in terms of building go-to-market plans, prior to any given year. And we co-create those plans with our distribution partners and with our investment product teams. And we really have a very aligned agreement on what our sales goals are, what our marketing KPIs are, and what our client-oriented goals are going into any given year. But as you say, market cycles can pop up. Things can just happen that are very unpredictable in the asset management space. And that's sort of the nature of the beast. And while the go-to-market plan is tried and true going into the year, it's also a living, breathing document that needs to continue to kind of be edited. But again, with an agreement on all of the partners inside the firm as the year goes on. And we're very good at how we measure that. We have a monthly cadence, where we're bringing all the senior leaders across the marketing org together to really get under the hood on what the metrics are telling us and what the client data is telling us, so that we understand where those pivots need to happen. So I would say that's how we kind of keep to the strategy, for the most part. But I do think that one of the more difficult elements in given, market cycles is keeping everybody calm. And I don't just mean our clients, that's certainly part of it. But I also notice, just as a leader and as a manager, people that are newer, for example, to our industry, they haven't seen this movie before. And many of us who've been in this space for a long time, this is like a every other year type of thing that, something else bubbles up and we have to pivot. And arguably that's what makes it interesting. But, I've spent a lot of time just letting people know, we're gonna pivot. This is another market cycle. Same thing with our business partners. So, that is one of the difficult elements of it.
Yeah. Thank you for that response. I do want to talk a little. I mean, it's very clear to me that you love your job and
Yeah.
you're energized by it. But I do want to talk about the toughest parts of your job, and maybe could you expand on that question a little bit? Tell me about what keeps you up at night.
Well, I think one of the toughest parts in marketing is continuing to prove your ROI and the money that it takes to make our worlds go round. And some things are harder to measure than other. I think, we've all gotten really good at, performance marketing and being able to understand lead generation and how those leads are, turning into activity and ultimately to sales. That can be harder to do on the brand side of things, right? Where yes, we're spending money because in our case, we're measuring those brand ranking ticks in any given country or segment that we do business in, but that's only measured annually for the most part in terms of how we think about it. It's not as expedient in terms of data that you're seeing to be able to sort of prove some of the spend, or even things like, big events that we want to show up at. For example, this year we went and did Davos for the first time. We were a sponsor of Milken for the first time. These are really important markers for us to be a brand that shows up on those stages. But, things like that sometimes can be harder to measure. Of course, we have, meetings with clients and prospects, and we're tracking the heck out of that. Same thing on some of the retention spend, so I think any CMO would be joking if they didn't say, especially in this year, one of our biggest challenges is trying to, keep our budgets where we all agreed coming into the year they were going to be, whether that's FTE, whether that's, brand spend, et cetera, and making sure that we deliver on what we said we were going to deliver on.
Yeah, no, I would imagine that that very much to be the case. Um, Let me ask you, sort of moving along with this. Let's get a little deeper into your business, if you don't mind. Talk to me about your key target audiences. What audiences would you consider to be key target audiences, and talk to me about how you reach them, how you connect with them.
Sure. So the biggest piece of our business is still in the US wealth space. So that means we are targeting US financial advisors directly. We do not market to the end investor. I mean, of course, there's spillover, but our target is really the US financial advisor and the home office representatives that work at the home offices. So we have a dedicated US wealth client marketing team with roles on that team that focus on different firms, focus on the different decision makers kind of between those two groups. Outside of the US, we also are beginning our path in an international wealth business, which is in large part right now still about the home office sale. We're not embarking on marketing directly to the intermediaries yet. And then we have a global institutional business where we have institutional investors around the world. That's really where you see that 32 countries number come from, because that's the institutional business. And of course, the consultants, where, they are important intermediaries, become our important clients as well.
Yeah, that's an awful lot. And let me ask you this: in terms of the international targets, what markets specifically are of major focus to you guys?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, Japan, Germany, UK, in addition to the US, are the four most important markets to us at this time. That being said, we tier markets. And so we have tier 2 markets and tier 3 markets. We have new markets that we're entering. For example, in this fall, we'll be opening a new office. So we're always understanding where the client demand is, where there may be an opportunity for us to play a role. And we have regional hubs in groups, both leading across APAC and across EMEA, as well as across the Americas.
Yeah. What and again, only get into what you'd like to share, but what tactics do you find most effective in connecting with these target audiences? What
Yeah,
are
so
the major ways?
sure. I mean, we've gone big on in-person events in the US financial advisor space, but we have been very deliberate about matching the type of event and the type of experience to the type of advisor. And what I mean by that is, we have very specific events for RIAs to be able to connect with other RIAs and have dialogue and conversation that's hyper relevant to them in really interesting experiential locations around the US. Those are very different events than, sort of our investment summits, which we do at a firm level, and we bring together advisors from a certain firm, and we spend most of a full day then going into different educational topics around investments and providing our expertise and from our portfolio managers or from our different experts on a variety of topics. The US election is obviously a very important topic on the minds of financial advisors right now. So that's a big piece of the agenda in the investment summits that we've been doing. We also do really intimate events for the C-suite decision makers at our clients, and those are actually combined between institutional and wealth. We do real assets forums for our private investment strategies, where we bring together, again, wealth and institutional who are interested in learning about our expertise on real assets. And similarly, we're doing those types of events around the world. So real assets forums that we're conducting in Australia or in Korea or in, European markets. We also launched last year our Empowered conference, which is really our sort of client-centric investor day-like event that we had in New York City for several hundred of our clients across all different segments, bringing together outside speakers, political experts. For example, we had Condoleezza Rice speaking last year alongside our different investment experts. So doubling down definitely on in-person experiences, because we found while a lot of people were doubling down on virtual events, that we were starting to see those numbers dwindle, and we wanted to really recalibrate on our virtual event series and make sure that we were providing these opportunities for people to get that expertise in person should they want it. And that's proved to be very successful, because those proprietary events that we're hosting, we can very much measure kind of what comes in off the back of those. So I would say events has been really successful for us. Something that we've seen, especially as we enter new markets or we're newer in certain international markets, is really leaning on PR and making sure that our experts have a voice in the media, in the most important media and the most important stages in that specific country or region where we know our investors and prospects are showing up. So PR has been a lever. We do a lot of proprietary research that we deliver. So every year we conduct something we call our equilibrium research, where we talk to 800 institutional investors around the world, and we publish that proprietary research. And then those findings drive our content strategy for the year. So our institutional content strategy, obviously in any institutional marketing strategy, becomes really important. And it's not just about that long form piece, it's about all of the different ways to take an idea that investors told us was important and make knowledge available to them through CIO roundtables, through video content, through other mechanisms. So those are some things I would say, off the top of my mind, that in the last 12 months in particular have performed very well for us.
That's great. Let me ask you a little bit deeper on that. So beyond personal events, public events, I should say, and beyond public relations, how about paid media? What role might that play in your strategy, or not very much?
Yeah, I think it's going to play an even more increasing role in our strategy, because as you heard me say earlier, we are onboarding a new media partner. And with that partnership, we really wanted to look at media buying more globally, which we have tended to do more regionally. And while we have a in-house team kind of buying programmatic media here in the US, doing all the right things as it pertains to where advisors are at, and that includes paid search and paid social. We haven't had that robustness in some of the other regions and countries where we operate. And so we're really kind of recalibrating and thinking globally about our spend and making sure that we have the right strategies in all of those different key markets that I mentioned that we'll be looking to go into. We do have some pretty important media partnerships that we've had for a number of years that will continue. For example, CNBC is a big partner for us, but we're trying to be really thoughtful about media consumption behaviors by the different audiences and kind of where that's trending and where that's going. And as I mentioned, demographic shifts, younger advisors starting to consume media a little differently. So we're trying to kick the tires on that. And so I think, it will continue to be important, but even more so as we kind of go into the latter part of this year and into next year.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. While we're talking about media, let me ask you, media clearly has undergone some vast change in the past 18 months, in the past 5 years. And I'm going to guess that it's pretty difficult to keep up with all these changes. And it presents a bit of a challenge for not only you, but also for your team, just to keep up with what's working and what's not. And I'm not specifically talking about your own work, but just in general. And can you share with us, how do you keep up with the change that has factored into this three-dimensional chess?
Well, I think that is one of the reasons why we are looking to partner with an agency, so that we don't lose sight in-house of any given one of those trends. But What we do is we actually have the media partners come in and present to us on a regular basis. So in my monthly leadership team meeting, we constantly have somebody in kind of talking about what they're seeing, offering, insights on what some of our competitors are doing that we might not be thinking about, offering insights on how they're changing. There's so much happening with AI with our media partners right now in terms of content programs that we could do. So yeah, we don't want to lose sight of any of that. And I just have, I think, terrific partnerships with all the different financial media, and having them they're always welcome to come in and talk to us. And it's just knowledge that we all can get as we think about our strategies.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's great to have solid partners who you can rely on, to not sell, but to really advise.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the concept of ESG, right? I mean, it affects investing. It affects, therefore, marketing of financial services. Can you explain to me how ESG may or may not affect both your marketing and excuse me, both your services as well as the way you market them?
Sure. Well, kind of back to the client centricity that drives everything that we do. In our proprietary research that we do every year with institutional investors, we ask a lot of questions around this. And our most recent survey showed that 85% of institutional investors plan to or do consider ESG when making investment decisions. And again, that's in kind of all the countries we operate in. And 79% of them said that they're considering climate specific investment strategies, right? So it is important to our clients around the world, and not all, but we want to make sure that we have the offerings, the insights that are important to clients that we work with. And so it does have to be part of how we think, and the insights and the advice that we offer.
As the generational transfer of wealth continues to move forward, do you see ESG and sustainability as becoming a more and more key factor in decision making on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly a lot of research that proves that out with the younger generations that are going to be critical to our industry going forward. But I also think we have to do what we do best, which is deliver investment performance, right? So the way that we think about it is non-financial material information that can help us be smarter about our investment strategies. We will use it, and we will make better investment decisions. But that's because at the end of the day, we have a duty to perform, Yeah.
Let's thank you for that. I smile because I'm going to ask you a question that kind of makes me smile. Is that I cannot do a conference without getting into AI these days. Right?
I
Everyone
agree.
wants to talk about it. Everyone wants to sit on the panel. Everyone would like to hear more about it. And I do think there's some hype, but I also think there's some real substance in the issues surrounding AI and how it can affect long-term marketing in financial services. And could you share your insights on this particular subject with us,
Yeah, I
please?
say bring it on. I mean,
Ah,
I just said that to our internal team that's sort of leading the way on our in-house generative AI tool. I mean, I want everyone in the marketing team to have access, and those who already do are seeing great efficiencies. I mean, our social media team has, built out prompts that allow AI to read long form content and create social posts, right? I think in our space, until compliance has been AI'd, which might be a little ways off, everything we do it's going to be about efficiency, but we're still putting it through a, human lens for the foreseeable future. But I think efficiency is really needed right now to how we go about a lot of what we do in marketing, whether that's content, whether that's automation of materials, etc. But I also will say that there is an art to storytelling, and there is an art to design. And I don't think that part of our job is going away. But I do think we all need to learn how to use it to be more successful.
more of a tool is what I've heard as well. More of a tool than it is a replacement for your job.
Certainly in the near term. I don't, yeah.
What would you expect me to say? Listen, thank you for that very much. Um, all right, I want to talk to you, if I may, shift gears further about compliance and the relationship between marketing and compliance. And I've seen polarization in my time. I've also seen a warming of the icebergs. What do you? How would you describe the relationship? And of course, I'm talking about it in general terms. The relationship between compliance and marketing in financial services today. And well, I'll leave it at that. How would you describe that to me?
I mean, we have to have a very close-knit relationship, right? Speed to market on marketing, which is a reputational risk for marketing, relies on compliance. Us being successful and keeping, the risk of our company intact relies on compliance. So, we have to be very tight-knit. I would say we create process and efficiencies and education. We co-create that with compliance to make us all smarter, and continue to try to just refine. If we see that processes aren't working well, we're working together how to continue to shave off time or help our marketers know the rules better. So it's a constant partnership that's evolving, all the time, but it's very much done in partnership.
Yeah, and that is an aspect that I find fascinating, and I would agree with you that it's become much more of a partnership arrangement. Whereas in the past, and you may agree with me, or you may remember this as well. At one point, it was very much of a polar, frigid kind of relationship where compliance's job was to say no, and marketing was to say let's push the envelope, and there seemed to have got a log jam. But today I see much more of an understanding and respect for one another's
I
jobs.
think
You
the
agree?
best compliance partners are always those that say, let's figure out how we can do this, right? There may be disclosure, there may be different ways we need to word it, there may be different things we need to do, but kind of getting to that versus the no. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Tara, the future, it's impossible to sit here and predict it, but as we sit here now and we think about where we were, or excuse me, where the industry was 5 or 10 years ago, it's amazing, right? Where we've come. I mean, some of the not only advances in technology, but just the cultural advances, like the one we were just maybe even mentioning about compliance and marketing, and the advent of content marketing. I mean, all of this was not really even on our map just 10 years ago. So therefore, I want to talk to you about what you might speculate is in our world of financial marketing ahead, 5, 10 years hence. What might we be talking about? What might be new and different that we'd say, "Oh my God, that's crazy."
Well, maybe these aren't that crazy, but I'll start with a few. Firstly, I think the conversation around lifetime income and annuities in 401k is going to just be the norm if we fast forward into the future, right? As I mentioned, we have a little bit of a broken retirement system as it relates to the 401k, and we very much in this country need that lifetime income option embedded into 401k plans. So we are on a mission in partnership with TIAA to continue to work with corporate entities to make that happen. But I do think if we were to fast forward, those embedded lifetime income products are just going to kind of be a way of the world with 401k retirement plans. I think with the demographic shifts, specifically the Hispanic population in the United States, which is 80% of new laborers. If we look at the demands and the behaviors of, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, with sort of instantaneous, the way that they are living and breathing, digitally, I think those all have some real implications, like I say, for sort of the future of, financial advisors, financial advice. I think that, our research that we're doing is showing that they are going to want something a little different. So, who knows what exactly that will look like, but I think what we're trying to do is conduct research with those demographic groups, provide those research and insights to financial advisors through our education programs and to home offices so that we can help build the practices of the future, right? I think that's going to be really important, and we want to kind of help pave the way with our partners. So I think that's for sure a big piece of what we'll see be different. Of course, people are living longer. So back to the longevity conundrum, that lifetime income product, I think, leans into why, I mean, those are two sides of the same coin that we're trying to solve for. Customization, I mentioned, sort of a lot of the traditional vehicles that we think about now as being core to our industry, I think are going to look different. You know, there's been a lot of the, you know, availability of privates and alternatives that have, you know, made its way all the way into mainstream. We certainly are at the forefront of that. I think between that and, you know, just the major push for wanting more customization, more efficiency in portfolios, we're as asset managers going to have a big part to play in that.
Yeah, yeah, those are great predictions. I want to ask you a little bit more specifically. Something on my mind. You know, these days you have personal. You mentioned customization. You have personalization of communications, and there's been a lot of advances in that lately, and I am sure, in my opinion, more to come. But you also have privacy, right? And you have the counterbalance to that personalization, sort of buffering what can and can't be done, and for good reason. What do you see ahead with respect to those two dynamic forces in general? I'm not asking really a specific question.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really important question. And I think there's this demand for login portal
Yeah,
like experiences, because people do want to get in there and see everything that's hyper personalized to them, but they want to have that name and password that they know it's protected, versus we're just kind of, you know, pushing out everything to them. I think the old way we talked about personalization in a lot of these conversations that you and I've been having for such a long time is was really about personalizing a lot of prospective marketing campaigns, as opposed to people wanting personalized experiences related to their current client experience with you and or what that client experience could be, right? And so kind of different sides of the coin. The other thing, which I'm sure is not shocking, is, you know, if we can get our clients to subscribe and to raise their hand and tell us what they want to receive, those open rates are multiples higher than any other kind of email we could send them. And by the way, we didn't even talk about this, but I will predict like email, you know, as a very different piece in the marketing ecosystem if we were to move forward. I mean, I think in the CMO roundtables that I'm in, we're all seeing email just get less and less effective, right? And it's no surprise if I think about, you know, my daughter, she's not on email, right? She's not even on
right.
text. She's inside Snapchat and, you know, all these different things. So, you know, what does that mean for the future of how we think about marketing? If we think about AI and what search engines are going to become, it's not going to be where we buy search terms and our links it's going to be, you ask it a question, it gives you an answer. How is it going to
Right.
answer that Nuveen is part of the answer? How's that going to work, right? So I think there's some big questions out there.
Do you think private, in the face of perhaps declining interest in email, do you think private networks then will become perhaps a surrogate solution to that decline?
I certainly think a lot of us are seeing that with LinkedIn right now. There's other versions in different countries as well. But yeah, I do think that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
back to
couldn't agree.
like their choice. They're
Yeah,
choosing to log into
yeah.
something. They're choosing to go where they want versus we're choosing for them.
Right. And it's about relevancy, right? Well, this is a relevant community for me to be part of, and
Right.
I will notice this more than I will just sort of, email from the great beyond. Fascinating. Let me ask you what might be our final question, but also perhaps might be the most fun, is what's the best part of your job, Tara? What do you like doing most about your role as Chief Marketing Officer at Nuveen?
Well, in the last few years, it's been about leading and inspiring others and to try to push for growth and change. And so what I mean by that is I have an incredible leadership team that knows how to do incredible marketing, right? But I have a role beyond just managing the marketing and the comms, strategy and execution, which is, to use my voice to be a leader. And, we didn't get into this, but another piece of what's going to come with Gen Z and Gen Alpha is they look at the whole person health, meaning they don't compartmentalize work, finances, personal, the way that, for example, my generation does. They think about their whole person health, and financial health and physical health and mental health start to kind of become one more. And I'm a big mental health advocate. I lost my brother to suicide 5 years ago. And since then, I've worked with TIAA Institute to conduct research on the innate linkage between mental health and financial health. And there is a enormous linkage between those two things. And so, the most interesting part of my job gets to be to kind of work on bigger issues, sometimes like that could be really needle moving, to start to just incite some thinking and some change in the way that we do things. And it's a lot of these really interesting sort of future seismic shifts, but mental health would be one we didn't hit on, that I'd be remiss if I didn't, because it's been such an important platform to me, being there for the industry, being there for employees, to just really openly talk about it, but to know that when we come to work every day, we're actually creating financial stability for people, which is also creating mental health stability for people. We don't think about that when we just come in and work every day. So I've really been having a really joyful time in the last 2 years in particular, just making that connection and talking more about it.
That is wonderful to hear, and a very just cause, and what should I say, cause and effect relationship. Let me Well, I just want to say that in recent years, I believe that what we've seen, and we talk about it in our forums, is that brands, financial brands particularly, have come to stand for something more than just making money. And that might be a real pivotal, just the example that you yourself just brought to the table might be a real evidence of major shift in the way financial firms market themselves, is they actually are planting a stake in the ground, whereas before it was just like, I can't do that. I just, we could alienate somebody, right?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Listen, we do have one question. If you got time for us, Tara,
Sure.
we have time for you, if you don't mind. I'm going to read verbatim, so bear with me. Great to hear that you've hired a new creative and media agencies to support the next phase of your brand development. What was the key thing you were looking for when bringing on a new agency partner?
Yeah, so I mean, firstly, cultural fit. And there's a lot of incredible partners to choose from out there, but we wanted to make sure that the working relationship and the thinking felt really symbiotic in terms of the two cultures. We were really looking for a creative partner to understand our story and the sophistication that comes with what we do, but also the opportunity that we have to tell a very global story around who Nuveen is. Same thing on the media partner. We wanted to have that global thinking that I mentioned earlier. We wanted to try to kind of break down some of the silos in the way that we had been thinking about it from an in-house perspective. But at the end of the day, we wanted teams that we felt could ride right alongside of us, that could sit and speak with our executives and just come in and be part of our marketing ecosystem.
I love that answer, because I think it's not quite the obvious answer that everyone would say, this is what we need to deliver. The cultural alignment between an agency and a financial brand, it can make or break the success of
Right.
not only your work, but of course your relationship. So listen, Tara, I'm afraid that this is as much time as we have time for, but I must thank you very much. This has been a terrific conversation. I know our audience has loved it. And for anyone who's missed it, we shall be sending it out via email out to our community as well. Can't thank you enough, and thank you for your time and your insights and expertise.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Bill.